Okay, so we have been learning about compression over the past couple weeks. That's been really cool. Have you been enjoying that? I've been enjoying it, right? We've been learning some different things about compression. We've talked about side chaining, which actually got us into this whole mode of compression. We've talked about the basics of compression. We've taken a look at how to apply compression to different sources. And this week, we are going to look at a concept called parallel compression. All right. Parallel compression is cool because it basically is when we take the dry signal or the uncompressed signal and we blend it with the compressed signal. And the examples we've been looking at up to this point, we have been just listening to the completely compressed signal. But there are some times where we want the energy of the compressor, but we want to control how much is coming in, right? And so we're going to see a couple of different ways to apply that. Before we get into that, why don't you take a moment and leave a like on this video? Why don't you take a moment and subscribe to this channel and share. Sharing is caring. Share this video with somebody else and let them know about the good things that are going on over here on the Ed McCray Music Channel. And we are going to get into some parallel compression, right? This is going to be good, right? You don't want to miss this. Here we go.
McCray Music.
So I'd like to look at two different ways we can apply parallel compression. All right. I'm in an actual mix here for a song called My Will that I'm currently working on. Let's just listen to the section of the song that we have highlighted right now. All right, so we got a nice little smooth R&B vibe happening here. I want to focus in on the drums, at least for this first example or two here. And I want to use some parallel compression to add some energy to my drum bus, all right? Now, the first way is some compressors are going to have a mix knob that's going to allow us to blend the dry signal with the compressed signal. All right. So if we pull up our virtual mix rack here and look for a couple, every compressor is not going to have this. Some will. All right. So for example, the Distressor, all right, is going to have a mix knob. Also, if I look for the FG401. And these are just two compressors I use, so I know that they have them, right? So this has a mix knob, right? And again, this is going to allow me to blend the dry and compressed signal, all right? So let's focus in. We'll use the FG401 here. And the mix knob is cool because I might dial in a compression setting that is giving me the energy I want, but it's a little too aggressive. And so I don't really want to change how it's hitting the compressor. I just want to dial back how aggressive it is, right? Because especially with these compressors that are modeling analog gear, sometimes we do want to drive the compressor a little bit harder to get a little bit more of those like harmonics and things like that sound, that energy, but we just don't want it to be as aggressive, right? So let's see if we can do an example of that. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to use a preset here. Let's see if we have a drum bus preset in here. Here's one, drum bus tight and punchy. Let's try that. All right. Some of the presets also will automatically have it kind of dialed in parallel. All right. So let's see what this setting is doing. And we'll probably end up tweaking it a little bit so we get some stuff happening because I see the threshold is really high here. So we're probably going to dial that in a little bit. And then we'll start playing around with our mix knob. Yeah, that's not hitting the compressor. That's not hitting the threshold at all. So let's dial that in a little bit. All right, So let's just say that that's the energy, and I'm not going to spend time dialing in a lot of set. I just want to show you the implementation of this. Let's say we've got the sound that we want, right? Now watch what happens as I start messing around with the mix knob. Right now it's at 100%, so we're getting the fully compressed signal. I'm going to start dialing it back a bit, and we'll see it start blending the dry and compressed signal. Let's actually solo out just the drum bus so we can really hear what's happening. Right, so we see that as we are adjusting the mix, right, how it's hitting the compressor is not changing, but how much of that compressed signal we're hearing is changing. So when it's up high here, you hear it's really pumping. Right, especially as that kick is hitting, it's really pumping. Let's dial it back. And that's nice. We've kept the same energy as far as what's hitting the compressor, but we've been able to control it, right? And so this is one of the ways that parallel compression is implemented, all right? Every compressor, though, does not have a mix knob, and sometimes we don't want everything to hit the compressor, right? In the example we just did, the whole drum bus, because I did the mix knob here on the drum bus, so everything hitting that drum bus is going to be impacted by that compressor. And oftentimes when we're doing parallel compression with drums, we really only want our transient instruments to hit that compressor to give that extra energy, right? So like my kicks, my snares, right? Percussive instruments, okay? And so in order to make that happen, I can't use what we just did. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna add in a bus. Let's add in a new bus. Let's call it drum para. Put it right here. Let's color code it the same as my other buses, or else my soul will itch, all right? And let's actually put it behind, since I'm not doing the whole drum bus, I still want to send that signal to the drum bus, so let's go ahead and do that, all right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a compressor, and we'll just stay with our virtual mix rack, and let's use the distressor here. I tend to like to use this for parallel compression with drums. And in the interest of time, let's just grab a preset. We got a couple here. Let's do drum bus parallel nuke 2. And notice that it has it at, it's kind of dialed back in the mix. So it's going to pump that up to 100%, because we are going to, now I could leave it like that if I want to, but the way I like to apply it, we're going to put it at 100%. And then we're going to control how much is dialed in. All right. So now what I'm going to do, and I'll do this down here on this line because I might not keep this in the actual mix for real. Let's send it to our drum para, and let's put this at unison here. I'm not going to do pre-fader because I do want my blend here to be what goes to that parallel compressor. And let's just go ahead and copy this send over to our percussive instruments, right? So our rim shot, we'll do both our snaps, we'll do all of our percussions here, and that's fine. All these top-end percussions, we're not going to have that stuff go there, okay? So now let's just listen to, I'm going to just solo just that, and let's see what that's doing. It's going to be really aggressive and probably sound bad. All right, so again, that's really aggressive. It it's kind of not doing exactly what it is that I want by itself. All right, but the point is not to listen to that by itself. It's to blend this in with the rest of my drum mix. All right, so now what I'm going to do is let's solo the whole drum bus. I'm going to pull this all the way back. We're going to play our drum mix here, and we're going to slowly move this fader up and listen to what it starts doing to the energy of the drums. Check it out. See how it adds the energy? Let's mute it. Let's add it back in. Look at that. That is really cool. Now, don't worry about this peaking right here. I don't care about that, right? You know, it's not. Sometimes with transients, you're going to get that. So this is fine. So that is really, really cool, right? So we've been able to add energy to our drum mix. Let's listen to this in the context of the whole mix. Let's add some vocals in here too. And let's just listen to what's going on here in the context of the entirety of the mix. And we might dial it in a little bit heavier.
Travel down the road to nowhere. Thought my way was getting me somewhere. When I reached my destination, looked around and then I found that
that is really cool. So you can really hear, especially in the context of the full mix, right, with all the vocals and everything in there, that adding that extra energy is really helping those drums kind of punch through just a little bit more. So even though this is not a very aggressive song, we're still able to add energy there with that. So that is really cool. Now, sometimes you might choose to do this for the entirety of your mix. Let's look at a quick example of that. Let's just call this, we'll do another bus. We'll call it mix para. And let's again use our virtual mix rack. We use our distressor. And again, I'm using the distressor because this is a plugin that I use a lot. You can do this with whatever compressor you want. Let's apply a preset. Let's do full mix parallel beast, right? Let's go ahead and dial that all the way in. Let's take a look at how that's hitting, and then we will dial it in. Oh, actually, let's actually send our mix to that, right? So let's have this going to our mix bus, and then let's go ahead and send our music and our vocal mix to that. Now let's see how it's hitting, and then we'll dial it in. All right, so you can already hear how it's really adding a lot, and it's way too much. Let's pull it all the way back, and let's use our method to dial it in as we did before.
Travel down the road to nowhere. Thought my way was getting me somewhere. When I reached my destination, looked around and then I found that your will is better. Your will is
Mute it.
found out that your way is better.
All right, so again, we see that here, all right? It's adding energy to the mix as a whole. And again, this is not something that I do a lot, but sometimes you do want that energy. I'm going to take this off because I actually don't want that in this mix. But we can see what that does as well, right? So you can take that and apply it to whatever you want, right? Apply it to vocals, apply it to any other instrumentation, apply it to your mix as a whole or parts of the mix. Whenever we want to add extra energy, using parallel compression in some form is a great way to do that. Okay, so I hope that helped you. If you had some confusion about what parallel compression was, or maybe if this is a new concept for you, or you needed a refresher, or whatever the case might be, I hope that this was helpful to you. And I hope that it's got your wheels spinning like, what are some different ways I can apply this? And again, all we're learning here are concepts, right? And there are an infinite number of ways you can apply those concepts. There's no wrong answer here. If it sounds good, it is good in mixing, right? In audio engineering, as long as it sounds good, great, right? So go ahead and try that out in different ways. Try it in ways maybe that you haven't seen, or that other people haven't talked about, or just whatever. Just give it a try some stuff, and you'll be surprised what kind of things you stumble upon. All right, go ahead and again like this video, please, and feel free to subscribe to this channel, and I'm going to see you guys in another video. Maybe we'll find something else to do with compression, or maybe we'll move on to something else. I don't know. We'll kind of see where the wind takes us. See you guys next time. Peace.